So this is Baruch Flashman here at the Tikkun Elevator Kolel, and I see that this sheer, the ultimate connection with God, is connecting with a lot of people, and can your let it grow. I spent several years learning with Rabbi Mimran. He's an extraordinarily hard-working man who's thinking on many, many levels. He has different dimensions to him that I'm not familiar with.
Disconnected. Ready to connect.
Okay, not sure exactly where that came from, but there it is. At any rate, I got to know Rabbi Mimran pretty well, but I could never get to a level like where Rabbi Mimran is at. This book was going to try to help me, and that's all he wants. Is that for people to be open to these ideas and to be able to help themselves become stronger spiritually by ultimately connecting to eternity. Now, that's a basic principle in Judaism, is that eternity is here in this world, but it's plenty hidden. That if we want, we can purify ourselves to come to a position where we can actually achieve it. Can't keep it,
Connected
but
to
achieve it.
PSKTOP 5LP3G9.
Let's go over here to the next piece. It's called The Loss of Paradise. Now, before we begin, let's remember this little blurb that he gave us the last time, which is resistance is weakness and fear masquerading as strength. He's talking about the struggle of our minds. So therefore, he says that he had said in that previous little shtickle Torah, he had said that the best thing to do is let it happen. Let it be seen. Don't fight it. Because if you do that, then you have a chance to be able to see where you're really at. So let's come down, let me bring this down just a little bit more. And let's see, here we go. This is the Abarbanel writing in Zechariah. He said there will be no redemption of Israel and the return of the Shekhinah's holy presence by simply fasting and mourning, but rather, now let me just go back over those phrases. There will be no redemption of Israel, there's a little spread there, and the return of the Shekhinah's holy presence will not happen by simply fasting and mourning, but rather by rectifying our deeds and being attached with Hashem with all our hearts and souls. So this is the path to be able to do that and to make that attachment to eternity. Adam and Chava's expulsion from the Gan Eden, that's the Garden of Eden, was the harshest godly curse the human race has ever endured. For all the thousands of years since that time, every human being has been living in pain. For with that expulsion, humanity entered the realm of time and mind. And mankind lost the gift of instinctive awareness and the simplicity of being totally connected with the Creator. Now, both of these things time because man is going to die. So therefore, you got to get it done, or you got to do this, and you only have so much time, blah, blah, blah. And then the mind, the fighting in the mind, the accusations, the defenses, the different kinds of plots and plans about the present, the future, and the past. So people began to perceive themselves merely as meaningless fragments in an alien universe, with no connection to their creator or to each other. Gradually, over thousands of generations, people lost touch with their spiritual foundation, to the point that they forgot it entirely. They were being falsely convinced by the ego or the Yetzer Hara that anything that cannot be perceived by their five senses cannot be true reality. And so they began to look outside themselves, seeking other sources of joy and satisfaction. They indulged in things that often were not beneficial to them. Why were they so obsessed with these cravings? Well, let me read this again. So they began to look outside themselves. And I wanted to say right there, they started making idols, but he didn't say that. Maybe he's talking about that. So he's just seeking other sources of joy and satisfaction. They indulged in things that often were not beneficial to them. Why, he asks, were they so obsessed with these cravings? Now, this is where he's going. All cravings are the mind's way of seeking hope or fulfillment in external things and or in the future. What the mind is actually seeking, though, is a substitute for the pure joy of being connected to and fully aware of the neshama essence. He calls it neshama essence. So even though that God kicked us out of the Garden of Eden, that we were no longer visibly connected to him, nonetheless inside of us is that same godly essence. So as long as I am my mind, I am those cravings, those needs, wants, attachments, and aversions. Apart from them, there is no I, other than as a possibility, an unfulfilled potential, a seed that has not yet sprouted. When I'm operating from that state, even my desire to become free or to become connected is just another craving from some sort of fulfillment or state of a completion which I can hope will materialize in the future. Don't seek to become free of desire or to achieve connectedness. Read it again. Don't seek to become free of desire. Desire, he says, don't try to get rid of it or to achieve connectedness. This is not the solution. Rather, be conscious. That's what the solution is. Simply be. There are the observers of the mind. Rather be conscious. Simply be there as the observer of the mind. Understand that as long as you identify yourself with your mind, which are your thoughts, which is to say that as long as you are spiritually unconscious, pain is inevitable. This inescapable pain is primarily emotional pain, such as resentment, hatred, self-guilt, pity, anger, depression, jealousy, and so much more. Even the slightest irritation is an aspect of this pain. But it is now universally acknowledged that emotional pain is the main cause of physical pain and even disease. Now, let me just go over this a little bit more, one more time. He says this inescapable pain is primarily emotional pain. And then he goes through different kinds of things, as we all know. But it is now universally acknowledged that emotional pain is the main cause of physical pain and even disease. Even every pleasure or emotional high contains within it the seeds of pain. So you know your team won, you scored a big victory over here, you made a lot of money, and in time that pain will surely manifest. One who has ever had an artificial high will know that the high eventually turns into a low. Even a close, loving relationship can turn from a source of pleasure into a source of pain. Eventually, every pleasure turns into some form of pain. He writes in his blurb, I love the blurbs, all craving are the mind's way of seeking salvation or fulfillment, but it's in external things and or in the future. This is Baruch Fleischman, Tikkun Elevator Kollel.